This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Gooder. Oh, welcome to the Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, May the 25th, 1989, Lanny McDonald finally got what he wanted in his career, a Stanley Cup and a goal in the Stanley Cup Finals, if you will. Lanny McDonald, of course, was an icon who came over from Medicine Hat in the 1970s to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he was a fan favorite. Unfortunately, Punch Imlach just had to ruin it by basically getting so mad at Sittler, he decided to trade McDonald to get Sittler to bow down to him and all that. But it didn't work. Well, Lanny would go to the Colorado Rockies with Don Cherry, who liked him a lot. Lanny would play a few years for Colorado before being traded to Calgary and helping the Flames do well in their small saddled. It's not called the Saddle Dome, the Stampede Corral, which was one of the smallest NHL rinks around by size and by capacity, and then, into the Saddle Dome. And Lanny was an icon and all that. He once scored 66 goals in a season, 1983, it's true. Lanny was the heart and soul of the Calgary Flames for many years. Lanny went to the 1986 Stanley Cup Finals, but lost to Montreal. But anyway, this was huge. The Habs and Flames would face each other in a Stanley Cup rematch from 1986. The Flames and Habs were actually the top two teams in the NHL by points, which is amazing. Usually, you don't see this happen, 1 versus 2. The Flames won the Stanley Cup. They were actually the first team in history to win a Stanley Cup after relocating. They were the Atlanta Flames in 1972. Then by 1980, they moved to Calgary, but they won a cup. It happened 4 more times since. The Devils, who were formerly Kansas City and Colorado, the Colorado Avalanche, who were the former Quebec Nordiques, Dallas, who used to play in Minnesota, and the Carolina Hurricanes, who used to be the Hartford Whalers. After the 1989 Stanley Cup Championship, Calgary would not win a playoff series for 15 years. 2004, when they went on that Cinderella run, was the first time they finally won a playoff series. They were favored in many of them, but they fucked up in the first round all the time. Leaf fans can attest going 17 straight years without a victory. This was actually the second last final in which a team from Alberta consecutively had gone to it, as Alberta had a team in the Stanley Cup Final from 1983 to 1990, which was amazing. This was the first time the Habs suffered defeat in a Stanley Cup Final since 1967, where you know who got it. So anyway, the Leafs, notwithstanding, Montreal won cups in 68, 69, 71, 73, 76, 77, 78, 79, and 86. They won 9 straight Stanley Cup Finals. That is like freaking unbelievable. Mind blown and all that. Patrick Roy won 4 cups in his career, 2 with Montreal, 2 with Colorado. But this was the only time he suffered a cup loss. This was amazing and all that. This was actually a little bit, Montreal would crumble a bit in the vernacular as Bob Gainey, Rick Green, and Lanny McDonald would retire. Larry Robinson would sign with Los Angeles, so Montreal was in the same sense. So anyway, in the series, in the path to the final, Calgary took care of the Vancouver Canucks in 7 games. It was when Calgary took on Vancouver in Game 7, it was part of one of the most shocking doubleheaders in NHL history, as the first game of that day was Calgary versus Vancouver. Vancouver shocked everyone by forcing a Game 7 against Calgary, even though they were badly outplayed. A young Kirk McLean did well. But it was Mike Vernon in that Game 7 who was the hero, making many saves off Vancouver players like Linden and Smeal. And Joe Otto scored a controversial goal to end that game because the puck was off his skate and it seemed like he kicked it in. Vancouver fans would not allow Calgary to forget that. In 94, Pavel Bure smoked the game winner double overtime against Calgary, and people thought that was revenge for 89. Calgary would take on the LA Kings, who then, in the second half of that Game 7 doubleheader, took care of Edmonton, coming back from a 3-1 series lead deficit, to take down the defending Stanley Cup champions. Calgary would take down Wayne Gretzky and the Kings in 4 straight, and then take down the Chicago Blackhawks in 5 games to get to the final. Of course, in those days, the two division winners from each conference would face each other. They go within their division. And as we all know, the North Division is weak. Love you. Montreal defeated Hartford in 4 straight in the first round of their 89 path to the final. Took care of the Boston Bruins quite easily in 5 games, despite the fact Boston took care of them easily in the 88 playoffs. And then they took care of the Flyers in 6 games, which was marred by Chris Chelios' hit on Brian Propp that knocked Propp out of the series in game 1, and then basically Hextall getting revenge by popping Chelios and getting himself a 12-game suspension. Was it worth it? Probably not. So anyway, Montreal and Calgary would face each other. The first 2 games were at the Saddledome, just like in 86. And just like in 86, the team split. Montreal seemed to have momentum, winning 4-3 in double overtime on a goal by Ryan Walter. But Calgary won 4-2 in Montreal to force at least a Game 6. In Game 5, Calgary beat Montreal 3-2. Game 6 was one of the best games on form ice and all that. Before that, CBC. This was the first time in 5 years CBC had sole rights to the entire series in Canada. They would be forced to share with CTV and Global a couple of times because of broadcasting things. So basically, yeah, they had all the games. But anyway, Game 6 was a massive show. Colin Patterson scored to make it 1-0. Then Claude Lemieux made it 1-1. And then Lanny McDonald, just seconds after serving a minor penalty, streaked down the ice on the right-hand side and scored over Patrick Roy's shoulder to make it 2-1. It was amazing to see it. Now, contrary to popular belief, that is not the Stanley Cup winning goal. That people thought he scored the winning goal, but no. Doug Gilmour. That was Doug Gilmour. Randy was a Flame and he was happy. Doug Gilmour scored to make it 3-1. Montreal made it 3-2 on a Rick Green goal. Not Red Green fame. Rick Green, the defenseman. Anyway, Gilmour would score an empty net goal. Calgary won the game 4-2 and shocked Montreal on their own ice. It would be the only time in history that the Habs lost a Stanley Cup final on home ice. The cup clinching game was on home ice. Now, this wasn't the only time a Montreal team lost a Stanley Cup Finals on Montreal Forum ice. 1928, the Montreal Maroons lost to the New York Rangers. But, the Maroons were not part of the Canadiens thing. The Maroons were basically made by Montrealers to represent the English Montreal side, and the Canadians were the French side of Montreal. But basically, yeah. So, yeah, it was amazing. Lanny McDonald getting to raise the cup, it was amazing. The only playoff goal he scored that season was a goal over Patrick Roy in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Of course, as a Patrick Roy fan, I would feel pissed. But, Lanny McDonald got his happy ever after leaving the Leafs. Seems that way every freaking time. But, yeah, it was amazing to see Lanny get his cup. And it was nice to see. He retired on top. That's what most athletes do, like Peyton Manning. You win a championship and then you decide to retire on top before it's too late. So Calgary had some very impressive people. Their centers were Yuri Hrdina, Joe Nieuwendyk, Joe Otto, and Doug Gilmour. Wingers, Joe Mullen, Lanny McDonald, who was a co-captain, Gary Roberts, Colin Patterson, Hawken Loop, funny name, Theo Fleury played on that team, Tim Hunter, Mark Hunter, people forget about Mark Hunter, Jim Pavletsky, and Brian McClellan. Jim Pavletsky was co-captain alongside Lanny McDonald. Defenseman, Albert Guinness, Kitchener, you know how to say it, Brian McCrimmon, RIP, about the 2011 locomotive crash, Dana Murison, Rick Natras, Gary Sutter, Jamie McCowan, and Rob Ramage, who would become captain of the Leafs and basically cause the death of one Keith Magnuson. And the goalies were Mike Vernon and Rick Walmsley. Everyone remember Bearcat Murray, one of the most famous trainers of all time. This was amazing. Well, there were two players for Calgary who only played one playoff game but didn't get their names on the Stanley Cup. Sergei Priotkin and Ken Sabarin. Priotkin was actually the first Soviet-trained player to actually go to the NHL with the permission of the Soviet Ice Hockey Federation. And Pryakin didn't really do too well. All that. They gave Pryakin and Zabarin Stanley Cup championship rings, so that's not bad. So, yeah. It was amazing and all that. Calgary won the Stanley Cup and proved to Edmonton that they weren't the only strong team from Alberta. I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.